Welcome, friends. Another new season of baseball is upon us. I'm Ryan McCaffrey, joined by IGN's fellow baseball superfan / expert, Kat Bailey. Good to see you, Kat.
Hello.
We had the privilege of heading on down to Sony in San Mateo here, up in their North American headquarters, and we met with our old friend Ramon Russell from Sony San Diego, makers of MLB The Show 23. And Kat, we got a chance to see the absolutely phenomenal new Negro Leagues Storylines mode. First of all, just give folks the quick overview and your thoughts, because I think we were both pretty impressed by it.
Yeah, so basically it's a variation on, I don't know, you could call it the Jordan Challenges or something to that effect. They've done these challenge modes before, but they've always used old news footage and that kind of thing. And this one, they've kind of gone to another level. They work directly with the Negro League Museum in Kansas City, and had Bob Kendrick, who runs that museum, directly narrating it, and basically just came in and just riffed and told stories about all these guys, and they broke them into individual chapters, and they have these really beautiful animations and motion graphics in order to illustrate it. And from a presentation standpoint, it's a clear step up from what it was before. And then it's a really cool opportunity to get to know these players who might not be as well known. I mean, obviously Jackie Robinson and Satchel Paige are there, but also guys like Martin Tehigo, who is a Cuban, I believe is a Cuban American, and he was known as the Immortal and the Maestro, and could play every position. It was fascinating. I was learning a lot, actually.
Yeah, he almost literally broke their UI. On his player card, it had every single position, and it barely fit in the space allocated in the UI. What I loved about this, Kat, is that you play through some scenarios with each of these players, but like the attention to detail with Satchel Paige, which was the first one we got to take a look at, he had his own nicknames for his pitches.
The Dipsy Doo.
Yeah, the B, which was I forget now what Ramon told us it meant, but it was like it be where I want it to be when I want it to be there, which is just such a great description of a major league pitch. And then in the UI, when you get into that next scenario, all the pitches have his names for them, which I just thought was so cool. And so that to me jumped out. But really, I'll tell you, for me, the educational aspect of this is I think the coolest part, because I mean, I'm a lifelong baseball fan. You are. I know, speaking for me, I've heard, like you mentioned, I've heard of a couple of these guys, but I haven't heard of all these guys. And so it's going to be really neat to learn about them.
Yeah, and even people like Jackie Robinson, I think you're getting a slightly reframed look at his career as well, even though his story is probably the best known because he's often lionized as the guy who integrated baseball. But then you have people like Satchel Paige, where they literally didn't know what his age was, and he has a question mark on his gravestone when he died. Yeah,
I didn't know that. They had a picture of it, and it's part of the storyline where he wouldn't even admit it upon death, which was just incredible. But I know you were pretty impressed by the presentation of these storylines as well, and some of the treatments on the stories being told.
Yeah, Ryan, you know that these sports games have a very small amount of time to actually come together, and this whole thing came together in like a year. Ramon Russell, who's traditionally their community manager, but he's been doing a lot of design work. Yep. He's been doing a lot of producing for MLB The Show. He pitched this thing, and he brought it all together in a very short amount of time, and a huge amount of work went into this. And I think that it shows how MLB The Show is kind of consistently a cut above a lot of the other sports games, certainly in terms of presentation, certainly in terms of the way that it integrates all of its modes together. And every time I play MLB The Show, I come away going, wow, like I wish every sports game were this thoughtful in the way that it approaches its presentation, its sense of history, its gameplay. Sony San Diego they've just been really, really, really good for a long time.
And it's and now, thankfully, these last couple of years, Nintendo Switch owners, Xbox owners get a chance to enjoy it as well. I know, you were impressed visually too. Like in this mode, we're talking about the first half of the century where the uniforms were like the heavy wool uniforms, and you can see that texture detail on Satchel Paige's jersey, which I thought was extra cool. So they've really gone the as far as they can with it in just such a wonderfully fun and also educational way, which is a hard balance for any video game that actually wants to teach you something to also do as well.
And they want to do more with these storylines, so it's not just about featuring the Negro Leagues and that kind of thing. That in theory they could hit a lot of different eras of baseball. You could basically have a Ken Burns kind of situation. Like they said, they've featured Babe Ruth and all of the others, Willie Mays, in the past, and they've had cool filters and whatnot. But I think they definitely want to go further with this going forward. This is not the end.
Right. This is it's 8 storylines, 8 players in this one, and we're promised more in future versions of MLB The Show. Kat, overall, your optimism level for MLB The Show 23 heading into it?
Yeah, it's pretty high, I think, overall, MLB The Show. I mean, you can quibble a lot with its gameplay balance in particular, which has been a problem over the years. Like, sometimes the animations can be a little wonky, but certainly compared to a lot of other sports games out there, it's very much more polished, I think, from a graphical standpoint. It looks great on the PS5. I've been really happy in recent years with how much less, I want to say, intense the monetization is of like Diamond Dynasty and whatnot compared to like FIFA Ultimate Team. So I think that while some people will be like, well, it's more baseball, I think that baseball fans overall will be pretty satisfied with this one. And
we did ask, I guess the last thing, we did ask Ramon about the real life rule changes in baseball. They're trying to speed up the pace of play. So obviously pitch clocks, batting timers not needed in a video game where you're playing, you're going anyway. But he did tell us they're not putting the slightly larger bases in the game, because the short version is it would kind of break the game as they have built it. They have such a short stretch every single year to build this thing that it just wasn't worth the hassle, and I don't think any of us will even notice when we're playing the game. Yeah, the players would have been clipping through the bases. They would have had to completely redo all of the animations. I think the most significant of them will definitely be the shift, which is, traditionally they would move infielders around like in extreme ways in order to account for players' individual tendencies, and it kind of created this very warped, min-maxy way approach to baseball, where the 3 true outcomes and whatnot. And I think baseball's a little tired of that. I think fans are a little tired of that. And it was actually impacting MLB The Show a little bit too, in my opinion, because you just had too many situations where it was a real struggle to get on base. I think Ramon Russell is fond of calling baseball a game of failures. So I'm hopeful that it will make it less frustrating as a simulation. Thank you, Kat. For much more on MLB The Show 23, we got a new season ahead. Should be a good one. Keep it tuned right here to IGN.